There comes a time in every person's life when you realise it's not about doing what you are told, but doing what you know is right for you. Let us take a journey of learning and discovery with the world's most successful people who are living the life of their dreams, walking through life using their inner wisdom and being of service to others. Forget exams, grades and test scores. What is your purpose? As we let go of what we think should be and learn from our elders to gain knowledge, inspiration and a true sense of who we are. What are your dreams? Does your life have meaning? Are you living a life of significance? Let's talk with today's guest. Hello, my name is Mark Taylor and welcome as we spend some more time together on the Learning on Fire podcast. Today I'm talking to Alexis Avila. Hi Alexis, thanks for joining me and let's explore the journey of who you are.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me. So I was born and raised in Ann Arbor, Michigan, United States. Moved to Brookline, Massachusetts when I was 7. My dad got a residency. He's a doctor at the Boston hospitals. And then I grew up and went to high school in Massachusetts. And then I went back to college in Michigan, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Right now I run prepped and polished tutoring and test preparation in the Boston area. And we work with kids locally in Boston, nationally, all over the United States and then around the globe through the internet, online on Skype and Zoom and FaceTime.
I was just going to say, is that kind of, so even when you're doing those sort of around the world ideas, it's still kind of one-on-one or kind of proper tutoring rather than kind of online courses and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so a lot of like what I do with Prepped and Polish is just a lot about what I'm comfortable with as a person. And growing up, I've always been like a one-to-one, very comfortable in a one-to-one situation. So I became a guidance counselor because I just knew that my skill sets were in the area of just kind of helping students out one-to-one. And so that's what we do at Prepped and Polish. We believe that, a one-to-one type tutoring, teaching student situation is, you get the best results that way. And it's worked really well for us. But yeah. We just do one-to-one classes online or in person. Growing up, high school, I was a great student in the beginning in 9th grade. And then I kind of fell into the wrong crowd and got caught up in the social scene. And there were some teachers who really, I had a teacher who had a problem with me, the way I dressed. It was kind of back in the hip hop culture kind of days. And, I went from an A- to a C minus in one semester. So how does that happen? Basically my academic self-esteem plummeted in 9th grade when I got that grade. And then I just basically wasn't able to recover. So I wasn't like an A+ student all the way through high school. I mean, things turned around pretty well for me, but I really learned that, teachers can either make or break you in a school system. So that probably motivated me to kind of start a tutoring company where we have really good tutors who believe in our students. So it's kind of ties in together.
Yeah, I mean, I can really see that. And like you say, teachers have so much influence, don't they? And it can be positive and negative in equal measure, depending on that relationship and how it comes across. And I really like the fact that, like you said, that even globally, you have that intimate one-on-one relationship. There are lots of people these days who, when they think about things being online, that it's one to many. But actually, it's just a different way of connecting. Like I say, face-to-face is face-to-face, whether it's in the same classroom or the same room or whether it's actually over Skype. And I actually I was doing a Christmas show a year ago, and the person who I was staying with, she was tutoring, I think it was French she was doing, and she was doing online Skype lessons as well. And she'd sort of been through and been a tutor in university and colleges and things, and then just decided to help people out and set this up online herself. And she said she absolutely loved it because it was just that she could help the people who really wanted help because they were coming to her to ask, and at the same time she had that freedom and flexibility to speak to different people around the world, which she found really, really exciting.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. I love stories like that. But I mean, just I've always, like I said, I've always been a one-to-one guy, and the fact that I can get paid and make a living doing what I'm good at is really fulfilling.
And so, what does your life look like now, and how is it different from when you were growing up? And I guess that could just be in terms of lifestyle or environment or location.
So, what my life looks like right now is, the way I see it is I'm running a very successful one-to-one tutoring company run by educators. And I emphasize that because a lot of my, a lot of competitors, and there's a lot of good tutoring companies. I don't like to disparage other tutoring companies, but one thing that kind of separates, mine from others is that, I'm a guidance counselor and I run a business. There's a lot of, businesses run by professionals who have MBAs, which is fantastic, but they came up with a business plan because they saw that it would be very lucrative. I actually came into tutoring not for the money, but I was just basically trying to, fulfill, my passions, and the money came secondary, and we're very successful now as a result. I think the parents appreciate it, but it's taken me 20 years. I would say almost 20 years to get to a place where I'm not number one. I'm not Kaplan. I mean, but we're in the game, which means like we have a reputation. The calls are coming in. I'm trying to, find more tutors. So, and it's taken 20 years of basically just, pounding the pavement. I used to go to mailboxes, house to house on Sunday mornings with my cup of coffee. And, I did whatever it took really to kind of become known. And it's different where, my life is different now because I'm living the life that I want to live. I have, I have flexibility in my schedule. So now I can do things that I really want to do. I like to read. So I make sure that I read just to kind of sharpen my mind every day. I work out. I run a company, which I like to do. And I also have time to be with family when it's time to, pick up my daughter. And I also have time to meditate. I meditate 25 minutes a day to stay calm. So a lot of freedom comes with what I'm doing now.
Yeah, and I was going to say that the freedom is often the key, isn't it? Like you say, and that just enables you to live the life your way. And I think those small things that you can do every day. I mean, I've been self-employed my entire life, and the freedom to be able to, like you say, pick my kids up from school, to be able to have a certain amount of time freedom where you can say this afternoon I'm going to do X or Y is worth its weight in gold. And the other thing I loved about what you said is the fact that if you do what you're passionate about, and it takes a lot of work, as you said, there's a lot of paths to be trodden on in order to get yourself going, but often with that work, with that passion that you've got, when those two things come together, often the rewards follow.
Yeah, it's really great having some time, because I know a lot of people in the corporate world, and they are tied up to the 9 to 5 job, and it is very stressful. Maybe it's very lucrative, and that's nice and all, but so when you can kind of run your own show and call the shots, you can also kind of run your own schedule, which is invaluable.
Yeah, for sure. You talked a little bit about you said that a thing with one of your teachers, but what was valuable about your school experience? Is there anything that sticks out that you think actually what I gained from that was something which I really really value now?
Well, one thing that I learned from high school, and it wasn't like the happiest time in the world. It was a very stressful time for me. Is that life is tough. You're dealing with a lot of personalities, and you have to learn to learn how to be friendly. So to win friends. If you want to make friends, you have to be friendly. And also, I learned that the teachers, when they're good, they can inspire you and instill your willingness to learn. So I had some classes that had with teachers that really inspired me. Maybe they pulled me out of a classroom and offered to, they invited me to participate in like a spotlight business program where like every Tuesday afternoon, me and a bunch of kids would jump in a bus and go to Bentley College to learn, from entrepreneurs. I mean, that was inspiring. Or a teacher would, give you like, really like, push you to, work hard on an English paper, and you get a good grade as a result, and you read a great book along the way. So it just taught me that, I've always loved to learn. So when I had a great teacher who ran a great classroom, I thrived in it.
And do you remember which teachers some of those were? You just sort of said there about why it's that kind of inspiration, it's that opportunity thing. But is there a particular person that sticks out for you?
Yeah. So before I mentioned how there was actually one teacher who didn't believe in me, and I went from that A to a C in one semester, and it took me like freshman year, sophomore year struggling, junior year, Mrs. Green, she was an English teacher. Actually, she said, why don't you go for, take the highest level English class and join my class next year. She pulled me aside, and I said I didn't think I could ever do that because it was a very rigorous class. She stands out to me because she was very strict. She didn't look at me. She also didn't really look like me. This Greek, Puerto Rican kid, dark hair. And she was just very strict and quiet, and I didn't at first, when you don't judge book by its cover, but it didn't seem like we were going to click. But she made everyone in the class work hard. She didn't treat me any differently than the other kids, unlike other teachers. And she rewarded me with my first A since freshman year. And that was the turning point. Miss Green was the turning point because she pushed, the hell out of me, and she rewarded me and made me believe in myself again. And then after that, I got straight A's and a 4.0. So teachers really can make a difference.
Yeah, and I love those stories about when, people think, oh yeah, a teacher really looked after me because they made life easy, or did this or did whatever. But I think those that really understand what it takes to get the best out of their students, those are like gold, because they understand how to push, how to praise, how to support, and like I say, to be able to do that with lots of children within a classroom, and that really is a real gift, and that's what teaching really is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Who did you admire when you were young?
So I grew up with a lot of opinionated, rebellious people in my family and in my family's friends, and in Ann Arbor, Michigan, who are very so a lot of them were running their own businesses and not working the corporate jobs. So I grew up with like a lot of family friends who started cooking restaurants and catering companies, and I got to be artists, and I got to be part of that scene, and I learned to think for myself early. I was encouraged to follow my dreams, and importance of chasing passion over money was instilled in me early by my family, and I still follow like that motto. So my dad, for example, psychiatrist in Boston still, was always very quiet, but very confident in growing up, kind of just like led by example. And I'm kind of like, I just kind of followed that. That's kind of how I go about my day. I go about my day. I look at it as like I'm going to go conquer it, but I'm not going to post it on Facebook.
And sometimes the biggest impact we get from these people, isn't it, is purely watching them and the experience of seeing how they live their life. It's not always about that one piece of advice or whatever. Especially if you're in a position where you can see people over a number of years, like you say, especially when it's family and that kind of thing. Just really understanding about who they are as a person and their, I guess, their overall character and how that really works for them. That's very impactful for you.
Oh yeah, so somebody like a father, you grow up with them, and just a constant can be a constant influence, for the good or bad over many years. Absolutely. I see a lot of like businesses today run, for people just trying to pull one over on the customer. But I grew up in a very different kind of place, like in Ann Arbor. The door's a little bit more open. So I try to like really focus on great customer service skills, and I think that my Midwestern values kind of instilled that, and it's actually helped me actually run a better business.
Yeah, I think if you're starting from a point of how you can help the people that you're serving, I think it's integral, I think, to people really feeling what your organisation or your business or you as a person is really all about. And I think from there you can get some great relationships, and I think your life is generally more fulfilled as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the best piece of advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
Well, so I mean, there's when you grow up, people always say things to you, whether they're, negative, like a bully, those things stand out. Those can motivate you as well. But, some of the positive things, I mean, and they come from all different kinds of random places. But, one time in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at night, I think after, a party or something, or, late at night when we were getting like subs or pizza, this homeless guy near a payphone, I don't know why, it's kind of random, but he noticed that I was acting kind of cocky or something, kind of like, brash, or puffing my chest out about, being loud, or I don't know what it was, but I rubbed him the wrong way. And he came up to me, and he basically, he looked at me square in the eye, and he goes, "Look, man, stay small, but grow big inside." And I instantly knew what he was talking about. He was like, don't act bigger than who you are on the outside. You're not impressing me. Work on yourself from the inside. And I don't know. Ever since he said that to me, I wrote it down. And even when I showed it to my friends, they were like, "That doesn't even make sense. This guy, what was he talking about?" But it made sense to me. So I try to make a goal of just always improving myself and not really bragging. Just like that homeless guy suggested. And stay humble. Stay humble. Just let actions do the talking. I run my business that way. I don't do these flashy advertisements. I don't offer quick SAT score improvements, guarantees or anything like that. I just focus on just hiring great tutors and let the chips fall where they may.
And it's always that thing which I love when I chat to people. You never quite know where it's going to go or what's going to be said.
Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, and it's just that sense that you don't know where some of this inspiration is going to come from, or where the piece of advice will be. Like you say, that there's often someone sat me down and said X, Y, or Z, but to have something from a complete stranger, like you say, that just hits you left field, but really talks to the sense of who you are. You can't have imagined that was ever going to be the case, but when you get something which is important to you and you really connect with it, like I say, it can change your life, and you don't know when that's going to be. It might be tomorrow, it might be in a year's time, it might have already happened to you, but when you understand it and you take it on board, that is probably the most important thing of all, really.
Yeah, and the hard truth sometimes really sticks with you, and I feel like that the homeless guy, just gave me the hard truth, and it kind of stung a little bit. I didn't want to hear he was telling, don't tell me what to do, but it was true. I was not acting appropriately, and it actually led me to enact change. So that was helpful.
Yeah, amazing story. What piece of advice would you give your younger self now?
Find positive people in your life, positive mentors. Stay away from negative. The negative gets you down. It depresses you. It sets you back. Really, high school. Find positive people, fun-loving people who are, motivated and, not just, smoking pot or whatever and drinking and just wasting. They're growing brains. Have fun. Have a good time. I'm not saying don't have a good time. Balance yourself, but find positive people, man, because positive people are going to kind of just bring out the best in you. And that's what, life rewards you when you bring the best out of yourself. Work on the things that you love each day. I would tell my young self, if you can, keep track of the things that you love, work on a spreadsheet so you can build positive momentum, because momentum can really work in your favor.
And I was just sort of thinking then in terms of that sense of what, like say, when you're in school and that kind of thing, it's very hard to have that impression that you have control over the people that you surround yourself with, isn't it? Because sometimes, you're in this class, so therefore it's this group of people, or you're in this form and it's this sort of people, or you live in this neighborhood and it's this sort of people. But I love that mindset of but I want to be surrounded by this type of person, whoever that is, like say positive, or people who are ambitious, or people who you want to spend time with for those reasons. And sometimes that just takes a little bit of effort in terms of where can I find these people, or where are they that I know that I can hang out with them as well, and actually just be discerning about, I'm going to put my energy there because I know that's where it wants to be. And the people that I might have to spend time with just because I happen to be in the same the same school or the same class or whatever. I just have to deal with them in the best way that I can, but I don't have to waste the energy or feel like that's where my life is heading just because that's where I've been put.
Absolutely. And if you have a hard time finding, friends who are that way, try to, find an organization where you can find maybe a positive mentor, like the Big Brother, Big Sister Association. Just a real quick story. 2002 or 3, I joined the Big Brother program, and my mentor, my mentee, Danielson, he grew up, very poor, from Cape Verde. He hardly talked to me, that first meeting that we had, and we've been, and now the guy is 20. I think he just turned 28. I met him when he was 12. He's 28 now, and we still connect once every week, once every other week. He went to my wedding. I mean, this guy has a great job, great career as an IT specialist with stock options. And honestly, like when we go to a bar, he's the most charismatic guy in the room. He talks to I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you talking to that guy? I don't know him. He has the biggest smile on his face. He's completely turned himself around. The power of mentoring, man. I'm not trying to say I'm this positive mentor or anything, but he pursued the Big Brother program, and it turned his life around. So
it is invaluable, isn't it? And that, I have to say, that's come up a few times on this season, about the whole mentoring thing, and it's something which keeps striking me as well, and some of the great impact, both in terms of the people giving the mentoring as well as the people receiving it. I think there's something about a coming together of souls, almost, of people wanting to help and people needing help and that kind of thing, and out of that, magic seems to happen, and it sounds like this story is the same sort of thing, like a complete change of direction for someone who really needed that help.
The power of positive influence, opportunities is amazing. Yeah.
So what does your future look like now, do you think?
I keep track of a spreadsheet. I actually do I work out. I do jiu-jitsu twice a week. And my sensei did the ultimate black belt challenge, where he was doing 100 push-ups a day and 100 sit-ups for a year and all these little physical activities. So I started kind of doing the same thing last year. But then my list of things that I want to work on every day grew. And if you look at my spreadsheet, honestly, there's 30 items of things that I do. I meditate 25 minutes a day. I read 20 pages a day. And so my future is going to be I'm going to continue that spreadsheet, and just continue to just work on myself so I can be stronger, more positive, calmer. I have a lot of work to do in that department. The anxiety always kicks in, but I'm working on that, and I do the meditations help me be a little bit more centered. I want to be somebody who speaks the truth more, and my company in the future I want it to make a big difference. Continue an excellent reputation, and give back to the community and be a leader in it. So
I love it when I hear the answer to this question, when it all stems from basically doing the future will look like it looks now, but just more of it, because I will have done more of it better in the future. And I think that's such a great answer, because you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what house you're going to be living in, or what city, or what your health will be like necessarily, in terms of it's going to be X, or I'm going to weigh this amount, or I'm going to have done this, this reward, or whatever it happens to be. But what you can have control over, like you say, is kind of, I'm going to do more of what I love. I'm going to do more of this. I'm going to do more of that. And from that, I'm expecting my life to look like this, because you can give more if you're healthy and you're doing things, and it's something you want to do. And I really love it every time I hear that kind of answer. That kind of, my future will look like it looks now, but just bigger and better, because I've been doing it for whatever time from today is until whenever that point in the future is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big fan of just momentum. If you work on it every day, that 10th day of working on it 10 days in a row, whatever it is, just even talking to a barista at a Starbucks or a coffee shop, that 10th day, you're going to be yucking it up with that barista. It's training, your mind to just kind of do things that are positive. And So momentum can work in your favor. It could also work against you if you're doing negative things. If you smoke every day for 2 years, you're gonna smoke that third year. So anybody can turn their life around. You just have to make the positive changes and work on them every day. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for all of us listening. I think, yeah, fantastic advice.
Yeah.
So there are certain resources that have a big impact on our lives, and we know that. But what's the one thing that you think is had the biggest impact? And it can be obviously a podcast, a book, a video, film, or even a song. It doesn't matter what it is, but what's that one thing which has just been so impactful for you?
Well, besides my podcast, the Prepped and Polished podcast, I love listening to Joe Rogan's podcast because he's honest, he's fun, and I just finished a really good book called "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins. It's a bestseller now. He was an ex Navy SEAL ultramarathon runner. Who basically grew up like in an abusive household, and just a perfect example of how he kind of just didn't stop feeling sorry for himself, and he just basically started working on improving, and now he runs like ultra marathons, like crazy stuff. He won like the Guinness Book of World Records for the most number of pull-ups in 24 hours. And I'm currently reading 12 Rules of Life, Jordan Peterson's book. Love it. And then this one book, it's something that I absolutely love. It's on my coffee table, but Secrets Self-Made Millionaires Teach Their Kids by Stephen Siebold. Very, very honest. Wish that I had that growing up.
Those are some great things there, and as always, all these things will be on the show notes. So if you go to educationonfire.com and in the search bar, just write Alexis Avila, and the show notes for this episode will come up, and we'll have links to all of these things that we've been talking about. So you've got easy access to everything there. So we talked a bit about your company and the sorts of things you do. So those who are people who are interested in and want to connect or want to find out more, what's the best way for them to find out about you?
It's kind of a one-stop shop with me. I mean, if you go to preppedandpolished.com, preppedandpolished.com, there's like an instant chat that comes up, and it's me basically. If I'm away from my office, I'll just connect with you on my phone, and that's a way to contact me. So just go to preppedandpolished.com. That's how you find my podcast. That's how you can work with me, get in touch with me.
Oh, that's great. So as he just said, everything's there, and we'll also have that on the show notes as well. Well, it's been really cool. Really great chatting to you. I really appreciate your time and all the great valuable information. It's been really, really good. So, thank you, Alexis, for sharing your wisdom and allowing us to learn from your experiences.
My pleasure. I appreciate it too. All right. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Learning on Fire podcast. For more information, please visit educationonfire.com and follow the links from the homepage. This show is sponsored by the National Association for Primary Education. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire.